Right, put my Allen key fitting, makes it easier. The bolts are smooth because obviously they're polished, and sometimes they can be a bit of an arse to get hold of and tighten in properly. Right, I'll just get the torque wrench. Where I've put it. .40 Newton meters for the caliper bolts. And then I can eye that through and see that it's nicely centred, so everything sits right. Obviously I've got the brake line to put on yet, but what I'll do next is I think I'll set the headstock bearings. See how that, when I put it up straight, it's just wanting to fall. It's like this tap and it goes. So the bearings are too slack at the minute, so what I'll do is I'll knock it off, set it up in a different position, and we'll get these bearings sorted out. Right, I'm just going to turn this screen round. As you'll see in the screen there, you've got the castellated adjuster. Now, I'll just take my glasses off. Get that used to having them on. When you're setting your headstock bearings, tensioning them and that, you've got to make sure that your lower clamp, like your bottom yoke, make sure that the nip bolts are loose. And also, I think I tightened these, and I didn't do it on camera, but the top slider cap, they get tightened up to like 20 Newton meters. So make sure that they're tight if you've had them off. But once you've got to the stage where you're adjusting, you just want to be putting getting a drift, a punch, wherever, and then just tap that round, which will tighten the bearings up. It'll take and make sure that you get it in line, and then just give it a tap. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but you know when I've centred the forks up and I tap the wheel on the front, it's how far it'll move before it starts going like just there. It's just gone on its own. That wasn't very far, so that still needs to be tightened up a bit. So you just keep going in and then tapping them in. Well, I'm trying to get off. and then line the thing up again. Now I've gone too far, I think. Right, I'll just give that a bit of a wiggle, just to let them bed in. Right, start again. So line the wheel up so it's like straight with the frame sort of thing, and then just give it a tap. That is actually, at that is about right. But it's a bit tighter that way. So what I'll do is I'll just tap that back just a tiny little bit. Oh, slip off. And then just straighten the wheel up. Actually, I'll give it a bit of a waggle. Let everything bed in. And then straighten it up. And then give it a tap. And that is about right. So, the next step is you want to tighten your cap. So I'll set it up in a better way, in a better position, and I'll be back in a minute. Right, the steering stem bolt, that gets tightened up, torqued up to 88 Newton meters. So that's that torqued up, and I'm just going to give me the bottom yoke a tap with my nylon hammer. Just to make sure it's seated, because what we need to do next is tighten the bottom yoke bolts up. Well, actually I can put that the chrome centre, I can just screw that back in place. And that just finishes the top yoke off a little bit. Right, I'll just knock you off for a minute and we'll get set up and we'll torque up these bottom yoke nip bolts. Back in a sec. Right, these bottom yoke nip bolts, pinch bolts, whatever you want to call them, they need torqued up to 54 Newton meters. So and I'll just whip round to the side and get that one done. Cool. Right, that's all the yokes tightened up to how they're meant to be, and the headstock bearings set. So I'll get these torque wrenches sorted, take the pressure off them, etc. And I'll come back and we'll get on to the next bit. I'll probably be fitting the brake line, so I'll be back soon. Right, brake line. I'm going to reach up here and take the banjo out. I'm going to fit it first to the banjo, to the reservoir, and then I'm going to fit it to the caliper, and then I'll put the clips on. Oh, nearly missed my washer. Right, it's just tight enough for it not too slack, but tight enough that it's, loose enough that it can turn if I want to manoeuvre it about a bit. So that's, the line's fitted to the reservoir, so I'm just going to knock it off, get it fitted to the caliper, so I'll just be a minute. Right, take the banjo off the caliper, bolt through, or should I say the banjo bolt through, and we'll just offer that up. Right, so it's bolted loosely to the caliper and the reservoir. What I'll do now is I'll fit the clips, the new brake line and the old brake line. The old brake line had its old clips on, but the new brake line came with two, can't see sod all here, so I don't know what I'm showing you. Came with two new clips, so we'll get them fitted. So I'll just knock you off for a sec and we'll go up to the side and be back in a minute. Right, on your top yoke here, see there's a threaded hole. That's for one of the pipe clamps. So I'm just wondering now if that would have been better coming down the inside, across there. We'll see. Yeah, pipe clamp, brake pipe clamp that is, brake line, whatever you want to call it. Now on these clamps, these the two clamps, there's different size holes in them. One's got a big hole in, one's got a little hole. The one with the little hole is for this one here. So we'll fit that first. The clamp on the pipe. Figure out where I want it, and then squash that round. Get the bolt and the Allen key. Probably blocking your view here, but I'm not going to fully tighten that up yet because I want to see how this is going to. I've got a sneaking suspicion I should put that cable down the inside of the pipe and not the outside of the bars, sorry. Just have a wiggle of this bit at the bottom. Yeah, I'm just going to knock you off for a second. I'm just going to change where this cable pipe's running down the bars. I'll just be a sec. Right, I've changed the position of the cable on the bars. I don't know if how well you're going to be able to see this. The camera won't. Basically it comes out of the reservoir, comes down and goes on the inside of the bars, down through the clamp that I've turned round. I've actually turned the clamp the other way around to where I put it on, and now we're going to go to underneath the yokes where the second clamp is. So I'll just knock you off a sec and get you set up and we'll go from there. Right, the other clamp that goes on fits onto the bottom of your steering stem, but first there's a plate that goes on like a cover that goes over the bottom of the bottom yoke sort of thing. So that's going to go to the front, I think, rather than the back. So clamp, put it on the right way, move it into position, that's probably going to be okay there. What I'm just going to do is drop that off a sec, just so I can squash this clamp on properly. Just move it up a little tiny bit, squash it round, and then get my bolt through, get the Allen key on the bolt, and then put that plate back in position, put it in position the right way around, Adele. Bolt through there, and then that just, as I say, screws up into the centre of your steering stem. So that'll hold that on temporary. That can twist round. Just wondering if that would be better at the bottom. I think it would, it looks a lot better. Better positioning. Pull a little bit of... Oh you fucker. You shit myself then. Right, so what you've got, I know it's not tightened up yet, but I've got some tweaking to do to make sure everything's right. I'll just knock this clamp off. As you can see, brake line coming out and down and swinging round and into the caliper. Once I'm 100% happy with this, everything will be getting tightened up. Now that's the route it's taking basically. So it's just a case of me making sure that like all my clamps, the pipe clamps are positioned correctly, and then I'll have to take that top one off because I've put it over the top of the throttle cable and it should have been underneath the throttle cable, so I'll just nip that off again. But that's looking pretty much alright to me. So once I get everything, make sure everything's exactly as I want it, then all these will get tightened up. So brake line wise, I'm going to call that it for now, and as I say I'll tighten everything up later on once I'm happy with it. So I'll knock you off for now and we'll get on to the next bit. Right, I'm going to wire these indicators in. But first, explain these wires on this. This is the indicator plug. These two wires here, the brown and the black, they're for your right hand side indicator. The purple and the black here, they're for the left hand side indicator. The two blue in the middle, They are for if you have running lights on, or like fog lamp sort of looking things. You know, some Harleys have two headlight, like up front of my Glide, they're now spotlights on my electric Glide, but they were fog lamps. Well, other Harleys have them on as well. These are the wires for them. So what I'll be doing is I'll just be cutting them, capping them off with a bit of heat shrink. They won't be getting used. But to start with, I'm going to do the right hand side and get the connector fitted onto this. So I'm just going to cut them off just back a little bit, and then I'm just going to shove that out of the way, and we'll get some bits and pieces put on this. Alright, I'll shove them up there out of the way. I'll fucking shove them somewhere. There. Right, now the plugs I've got, they're just like electrical, auto electrical connectors. Just a proper two-piece plug that'll goes together. You've got your pins and everything, but first the wires that I've just cut, some little grommets that go on them that shove in the end, make them waterproof. So as long as I'm not blocking your thing, I'll just shove them on. They can get a little bit tight sometimes, these, but if that's the case, just put a bit of oil or something on it, and something that can lube it one onto the one. Now I'm going to be using two connectors, obviously, one for each side. As you can see there, these connectors come into a short one and a long one, and they're just pushed together. Obviously there's no pins in this yet because I need to put them on the wires, but what I'm going to do is the right hand side, for instance, the long one will go on the cable in here, and the short one will go on the indicator wire. And then on the other side, for the left hand side, I'll do it opposite way around. And then you can't get your left and your right mixed up. So I just need to cut some protective, so I'll just, that'll be about enough. Same on the black one. And that plug's going to piss me off because it won't stay where it's put. So I'll try and shove it under the throttle cable. That's better. Stay out of the way now, and we can see what we're doing with these plugs. So as you can see there, you've got a brown and a black. Obviously the brown is your live up into your indicator, your feed, and the black's obviously the earth. So get myself some connectors. Right, now you've got your wire crimps, and you've got a connector. So you get your connector set up in the right terminal block on here. So I'll just work out which one it is. Sometimes you've just got to, with these connectors, you've just got to squash them in a little bit sometimes so that they sit properly in the crimper. So that's one sat in the crimper. So just get your wire. It might block your view a little bit here, I think. But just get your wire. Can't see myself. Shove it in. Actually, I've cut that wire too long. Nip a little bit off these. We'll try that again. And what you're looking for is getting your, you've got to make sure that your outer cable, like the cover, the brown colour, is in its protect in the thing so it can crimp it properly. That's not the best crimping job I've ever done, but give that another. Sure we get it in the right way. Get some goggles. Can't see that properly. Remember where I've put them in before. Yeah, it's crimped the cable properly. There is a couple of strands that are sticking out, which won't be an issue. So before I do the next one, I'm just going to make sure that I've got the length right. Yeah, I thought so, but it's a bit long, that other one. Right. So same again, I'll just squash these terminal bits together a bit so that they sit in there. In the crimper properly, because if they don't sit in the crimper properly when you do it, what happens is you get it sort of slips sideways in the crimper and doesn't crimp them properly. So once you've got them thinged up, feed your wire in, straighten it up a bit, feed the wire in, says he, just give that a twist. A bit awkward to see when it's this short. Well, it isn't, it's just the fact that I right, so that's in. The cable's in its clip part for the outer, the bigger piece, and then just crimp it all the way. And that's that. Still hasn't done that back one properly. I don't think these are sort of 100%. Oh, wrong one. Either that or I didn't have it in the right place. Back to front now. Right, I've got this, I'm in the wrong position for that. So I'm just going to, in fact I'll just knock you off a second.